is Faith Grace. I'm one of the senior trainers in Coral & Reed. Coral & Reed specializes in providing training to health and social care workers such as nurses and carers. Today, I'm going to be talking to you and demonstrating some of the equipment that is commonly used in the health and social care industry. We're going to be looking at how to use the moving and handling belt, and then we will look at how to use the transfer board. We will also look at how to use the commode, the hoist, and the sling, and eventually we will use the sliding sheet. The main aim of the session today is to introduce you to some of the equipment and show you how to use it confidently, and also affirm what you know about these equipment. Welcome. Welcome to Coral & Reed. My name is Faith. I'm going to be looking at some of the most commonly used equipment in the industry. I've got here our commode, then our typical profiling bed. We've got our moving and handling belt here, our transfer board, and our full body sling that we're going to be using later on. On my right hand side, we've got our Rotunda and our hoist. We're going to begin with our first equipment, which is looking at how to use our transfer board. The transfer board has got two sides. One side with a leading edge and a rather blunt side on the other side. As you can see, it's got two gaps in between, which gives you an indication of how much space to leave in between the equipment when you're transferring an individual from one equipment to another. This is a transfer board. As the name says, it is not a transporting board. So I'm going to call my colleagues to come and assist me to demonstrate how to use the transfer board. We're going to use the commode to demonstrate how to use the transfer board. First thing that you need to do is drop the side of the commode and bring the other equipment that is going to be used as the second equipment that the client is going to be transferring to. And what you need to do is have a colleague who is going to help you to transfer the client from one equipment to another, and they're going to make sure that the client doesn't fall every time they lean to the other side. Kindly lean. What you need to be doing is asking the client to lean towards the other end and just gently insert the equipment underneath their thigh. Bring the other equipment closer, leaving this much gap in between the two, so that you can see the edge of the first equipment through the first gap and the edge of the second equipment through the other gap. Kindly request your client or individual to place their hands flat on the equipment and use the other side of the commode and let them transfer gently, slowly to the rest of to the other equipment. So let's have our client do that. Go to the front, client. Keep on transferring yourself. Thank you. Make sure the client's hands do not get trapped under the transfer board. And once they get to the end of the transfer board, just gently pull it out from underneath their thigh. If you leave this much gap, it makes sure that you don't have the individual sitting flat in the middle of the equipment. And that's how you use the transfer board. Our next equipment is our moving and handling belt. These come in different sizes and colors. You can get them in the market for a very cheap price. When we look at our equipment, you can see that it's got a belt and it's got 4 clasps, which tells you that it should be used by 2 people. This should be checked to make sure that it's clean, is suitable, and the individual has been risk assessed as safe to use the equipment. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be requesting my colleague to come and sit on the equipment here, and my second colleague to assist me demonstrate how to use the moving and handling belt. This is a medium-sized belt. You normally get them in small, medium, and large. What you need to do, remember to always let your client know what you're doing so that they cooperate. Place the equipment on the waist of the individual and let your colleague loop it into the other side of the belt. Leave enough space so that you have two fingers to fit, and then fit it around the Velcro. So let's request our client to come forward for us. Please lean forward for us, please. Once that's securely fitted and the service user is ready to get up, what we're going to do is we're going to grab our clasps from the sides with both hands like a crow, like this. Then we're going to be requesting our service user or our individual to kindly stand up when they're ready. Kindly stand up for us, please. Now, remember, this is an equipment that should only be used on somebody who has strength on their feet, and you're just providing that extra support so that the client doesn't fall or lose their balance. The main aim of using this equipment is to avoid putting your arm around the client around their waist, which can be quite intrusive of their space. So kindly walk with the client. Our next equipment that we're going to be using is our Rotunda. Before you use your Rotunda, you need to make sure that the equipment that you're transferring from to the one that you're transferring to is set at a 90-degree angle. This is the Rotunda that we're going to be using today to transfer our client or our individual from one equipment to another. This is a height adjustable equipment, so you can adjust it to suit the heights of your individual. It can be used by one carer or colleague, but ideally it's best used by two people. What I'm going to do is bring the Rotunda closer to the client. Let him place his feet on the pads and let the shins of his feet rest on the foam. Kindly hold on to the bar. And I will place my foot here on the back of the equipment to support him. Remember, this can only be used by somebody who has strength in his upper body chest muscles. Then we're going to request our client to heave himself up. Kindly heave yourself up. And when he's ready, I'm going to tilt the equipment. Ensure that the chair right behind him is as close as possible for him. Then come to the front of the equipment, place my foot on the pad, and let the client rest back on the second equipment. So kindly rest back for us, please. Remember, you should always tell the client what you're going to do and let one person issue the instructions at all times. Thank you. Our next equipment is our sling, our full body sling. It has a smooth side to it and a rough side. You can see the attachments here have different colors. We've got red, yellow, and gray. And these need to be checked to make sure that they are steady, they are not coming off. Make sure that the equipment is not torn or worn out, and that it has been risk assessed to be used for this individual. It's got a label here which tells you what size of the sling this is. This is a medium-sized sling. And you can see the top where the shoulders go is right here. I'm going to be using this sling to demonstrate how to move your individual or your client from one equipment by way of hoisting using a hoist. Our next equipment is our hoist. This is also a full body hoist. There are several checks that you have to do on the hoist before you use it, and I'm going to be going through some of those, or most of those, with you. The first check that you need to make sure is how many kilos your hoist can lift. This hoist can lift 150 kilos. And this next check that we need to make sure is that the remote is working. So our remote is working, which is quite good. Third check that we need to make sure that the equipment is safe to use is our battery. That's our battery there. This is a detachable battery in the sense that you can slide your fingers underneath it. There's a handle, and detach it and take it for charging. This battery can support an extra small, medium, large, extra large size. We've got our emergency button here. That should be used to stop the equipment moving either from going up, down, whenever you require that to do. The next thing that we need to check on the equipment is the last time it was given a service. It was given a service on the 1st of August 2019, and it should be given a service every 6 months. Next check that we're going to do is check that our brakes are working. So they're fine, brakes are working fine. We've also got our levers here that enable you to widen the feet of the hoist. So you can use the right hand one to widen the feet of the hoist and the left hand one to close the legs of the hoist. Last check that we need to make sure is that since this is an electrical equipment, there isn't any electrical wires that are live and exposed and naked that could electrocute anyone. And we also need to check if our hoist is charged. Now, for us to do that, we just press on the remote and it should show you if it's fully charged, halfway charged, or a quarter charged. Remember, once you're finished working with the equipment, detach the battery and take it for charging. We're going to be asking our service user, to lean forward and insert the sling on his back. Now make sure that you get most of it, underneath him as much as possible. Remember, the equipment must have been risk assessed to be used for this particular service user. What we're going to do is we're going to request our service user to lean towards me. Then we're going to tack the edge of the sling underneath him. And we will do the same on this end. Just tack it underneath him. Make sure that the front is crossed. So grab hold of the loops and cross them so that when you hoist a client, his modesty is maintained. Now you notice that we've got a longer loop and a shorter loop. And what you need to be doing is taking the longer loop and crossing it into the shortest loop, like this. This will leave you with the longer loop hanging, and that should secure his thighs, and his back is now ready and secure. What we're going to be doing next is bringing our hoist. Remember, take your hoist off brakes and widen the feet of your hoist so that you can get round the client. Have the second colleague holding on to the bar because this can be quite heavy and damaging, dangerous to the client. So we're going to lower the bar. Going to lower the bar. As we bring the hoist closer, keep on lowering it for us, please, until you get to a comfortable height to loop him in. So for this particular move, we're going to be taking our client, thank you, from a sitting position, probably to another sitting position. We'll start with a sitting position to another sitting position. Now to use a sitting position, you always use the longest loop here. This is the reason, thinking behind it is that you want to have his legs hang as low as possible. If you use the yellow loop, which is this one, his legs will be high in the air, and if you use the shortest loop, his legs will be way high up towards his chest. But we want to use the longest one and make sure that his legs hang low. Now when you look at the bar, you can see that it's got two parts or two hooks. One is for the lower part of his body and the other one is for the upper part of his body. Carefully bring in the hoist closer to the individual and use the shortest one for the upper part of the body so that when you start to hoist your client, his back comes up straight. And the angle that you want to achieve is a 90-degree angle. Once that is all done and ready, we're going to grab hold of our remote. And we're going to request the client to grab hold of the loops and then let him know that he's ready to go up. And up we go. You can use the loops at the back just to make sure that you position him and maintain safety. And there we go, that should do it. So we're going to try and bring another piece of equipment from the side. Before you place your client on the second equipment, which could be a commode, a wheelchair, another chair, make sure that the second equipment is secure by putting the brakes on, and then use the hoist to pull it back and fit him into the second equipment. Now remember that the hoist is only a transferring equipment. It's not a transporting equipment. Once he's fitted into the equipment, use the loops to secure him into the equipment, lower him, making sure that his shins do not graze on the equipment. So you can gently move the hoist back and ensure that the bar does not scrap his face as well. Lower him to a comfortable height, and then you can happily remove the loops, and there you go. You have transferred your individual from one equipment to another. Remember that this equipment should be used by two people. It should never be used by one person, though it's not legally stated that it should be used by one person. And always make sure that you remove the sling from underneath the client. Don't leave your sling behind your service user. To remove the sling from the service user is very simple. Lower the sides of the second equipment, if it's a commode in this case, and uncross the front of the sling. Then request your service user or your individual to lean towards one side. Take it out just the same way it went in, and let him lean towards me in just the same way it went in pull it out. And there you go. Remember to secure the sides of your equipment for the safety of your service user. Thank you. In our next scenario, I'm going to be showing or demonstrating to you how to use or how to transfer our service user from a day chair to the bed. This is a typical profiling bed that you would ordinarily find in most hospitals, most residential homes, care homes, and it's got several features that are very important. The first feature is your remote. This can take the client up and down the bed or in a sitting position or elevate the legs. Then you've got the bed rails, which are these. So bed rails are very useful for securing your client or your service user so that they don't fall in the middle of the night, and it generally keeps your service user secure. It's very easy to use the bed rails, and what you need to do is just make sure to bring them up is just lift them up, and from one side to the other, and lowering them is exactly the same. Place your finger on the button and lower the bed rail. Same for the second one. Place your finger on the button and lower your bed rails. The mattress we've got on our bed is somehow similar to what you will find in most homes as well. It gives you, it's a very hygienic mattress that is very easy to clean and disinfect. So we're going to get our service user from the chair to the bed. And I've got my colleague here to assist me demonstrate that. We're going to be using a full body sling to achieve that purpose. What we need to do is request our service user to lean forward as usual. Remember to always communicate with your service user what you're going to do. This will keep them informed, reassure them, and make sure that they cooperate. Same as we did with hoisting from the chair. Tuck the equipment underneath your service user to get a comfortable fit. Let him lean to the other side, always informing the client what you're doing. And then, as usual, cross the front of the loops. And this will just ensure that the client is given that much extra dignity. As we did with hoisting from the chair to another chair, we're going to be crossing, taking the longer loop and crossing it into the shortest loop of the shorter one, like this. Taking the longer loop and crossing it into the shorter loop, like that. That should secure his thighs and make sure that the back is secure as well. I'm going to be remaining with our service user here while my colleague gets the hoist. As she brings the hoist, I will make sure that the bar is restrained and it doesn't injure our service user, so that should be comfortable. We're going to lower it a little bit more so that we have a comfortable fit. And we're going to fit in the loops. Now remember, every client or individual will be different. They will have been risk assessed, and your care plan should tell you what loops or to use on the sling for each particular individual. And remember, there will be very many different kinds of slings. There will be very many different kinds of hoists. You cannot just master one. If you're not sure on how to use that particular equipment, speak to your manager or a supervisor to help you. So we're going to lower this bar a little bit more, please. And for this one, we're going to use the middle one, which is the yellow one. Keep on lowering until you achieve a comfortable fit. And once you're comfortable and you're ready, you can hoist your service user. Hoist up your service user, please. Thank you. You can request the service user to hold on to the loops. This makes him feel a little bit more secure and comfortable. Now remember that as he starts to come up, his shins can graze on the equipment, so just make sure that he's secure in that aspect and his legs are comfortable. And once you're happy with the level of the height, you can transfer your client onto the bed. And we're going to be taking off his sandals, shoes. Always ensure that the equipment is never on brakes. Let me just plug in the equipment. And then lower the bed to a comfortable height. Ensure that you have nothing on the bed that can injure your service user. You don't have any extra pillows, and the bed should be 180 degrees flat surface. Once you're happy, fit your service user onto the bed. So let's kindly bring him this way. Push the hoist. There we go. And let him lie on the bed. So we can lower our service user onto the bed. I will go to the other side and assist my colleague. Once he's laying flat on the bed, you can unhook the loops of the sling and take this hoist away from him. Then we're going to lift our client up. It's not advisable for you to leave the client by themselves when the bed rails are down. Now remember that you have to observe the height difference. Thank you. So if you're working with somebody who is a little bit taller than you, you need to use the waist height of the shorter person. The reason being that it's easier for a client, for you to work on a lower surface than it is for a shorter person to work at a higher height. It's always advisable to pair two people who are roughly the same height together and not pair two people who have a great deal of difference in height. So we're going to use my waist height since I'm the taller person, shorter person. Okay, so we're going to take the sling from underneath our client, and for us to achieve that, I will fold his leg into a 90-degree angle, and I will request my colleague to roll him using the log roll to her side. once we're happy with that, we will bring him back, straighten or lengthen this leg and fold the other, and I will roll him towards me. And that will enable us to take the sling from underneath him. And there we are. We have achieved our transfer from the chair to the bed. Now the next equipment that we're going to be working with is our sliding sheet. This is called a tubular sliding sheet in the sense that it's a tube. It's double-sided and it's used to move the client to the desired position on the bed instead of using your bed sheets. It's advisable to use your sliding sheet. You have different kinds of colors of sliding sheets and different kinds of types of sliding sheet, but in this particular occasion, we're going to be using a tubular sliding sheet. We're going to fold the client's leg as we did to perform the log roll, and request my colleague to roll him towards her. You're going to fold your sliding sheet halfway so that half of it is in a roll underneath him and half of it is laying flat. Same as we did with the log roll, we're going to roll him towards me and we're going to pull out the other side. That's how you can insert a sliding sheet. You can also use that method to insert a bed sheet. Now, this is an equipment that should be used by tube workers. It is advisable that you just grab the top of the sliding sheet, but not in a lifting position, but in a grabbing position. Now remember that the heaviest part of a man is between his hips and his legs, so we want to aim for this position. Remember to part your legs to achieve a maximum point of stability. And if you want to bring the client to one side of the bed, coordinate with your colleague and request them to assist you to roll the client over. So at the request of ready, steady, slide, roll your client to me. So push while I pull. So ready, steady, slide. And the same, we can do the same to you. Ready, steady, slide. This is a very good move to achieve the desired position of the service user on the bed. Now we're going to roll him slightly towards the foot. So ready, steady, slide. And to do the same to heave him up towards the headboard, we would still do the same. Ready, steady, slide. So that's how you achieve the desired position of the client on the bed using a sliding sheet. Once you're done, gently fold his leg as usual, and I will roll him towards me. There we go. Fold the other leg in the same way and request my colleague to roll him towards her and very easily pull it out. And that's how you use a sliding sheet. Now remember, once you achieve this lying position for your client, ordinarily this would be to put them to bed. You can do exactly the same thing in the morning when you come in. You've given them a bath, a bed bath, and dressed them, gotten them ready for the day. You could use a full body sling. It's advisable to use a full body sling, which is the one that I had introduced, to insert it behind the client so as to hoist them out of the bed to the wheelchair into the day room. So to achieve that, what I'm going to request my colleague to do is roll. As you can see, she has already done that, rolled his leg up. And I'm going to grab hold of the sling, align it and make sure that it covers his shoulders. It comes up to his shoulders. So we're going to fold it so that half of it is in a roll, but half of it is laying flat. Is that good? So So once we are happy with that, we could request our service user to come back towards me and lengthen the leg as well, fold the other, and roll him towards me. That will enable us to do the same loop as usual and take the longer loop and cross it through the shorter loop while securing his upper body and the lower body. Now all you need now to do is bring your hoist, position it, and hoist him out of the bed, which is very simple. You're just going to take off our hoist off brakes. Remember, when you're not using your hoist and you've stored it away temporarily, make sure that your brakes are on. Position it safely and lower it to the point where you're comfortable. Once you're happy with that, remember he's going to be in a sitting position, so use the longest loop for the legs and the shortest one for his upper body. Remember to always communicate with your fellow colleague so that you're confident in what you're doing, and make sure that you're doing the same thing. Then hoist your client or your service user up from the bed, securing his head. Make sure that it doesn't get hurt. Into a sitting position. Now we could also lower the bed . And you can see that if you use the right loops, you don't have to struggle, because he will come into a comfortable sitting position as he is. His legs hanging low and his back straight. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to widen the feet of the equipment, position our client by tilting him. I'll get my colleague to bring the other chair behind him, assuming that we have hoisted him from the bed into his wheelchair, and start to lower him. Make sure he is seated comfortably. In an upright position, and his shins don't get scraped as usual, while my colleague ensures that his face does not get scraped by the bar. Once we are happy with that and happy with the height, we can take out the loops of the sling from both sides, and we're going to take our hoist and park it safely so that it doesn't roll and hit another service user. Now the next thing that we're going to do is take out the sling from underneath him, which is quite easy. If I request my service user to lean towards the other end, and he can lean towards me, I just pull out the sling quite easily. And that's how you transfer your service user from your bed to your day chair or to your wheelchair. Thank you. This concludes our training session today with Coral and Reed. I'm sure you found this very informative. In case you have any further inquiries, please do not hesitate to contact us at www.coralandreed.co.uk for our face-to-face learning, or alternatively, go to our online web portal at www.coralandreed.co.uk. Looking forward to seeing you. Thank you.